The Human Services Committee at 6:45. Members present on my committee is Council Waterman and Council Blair. All right, we're going to call up, we got Haley McGee for the Attleboro Youth Commission. Hi Haley, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Give us your name and your address.
My name is Haley McGee. I live on 8 Sturdy Street in Attleboro, Massachusetts.
Thank you. All right, so if you want to, read your questionnaire or however you want to tell us about yourself, go right ahead.
Okay. So one of the skills that I think I can contribute to the Attleboro Youth Council is that of empathy. My sense of empathy allows me to listen to those around me open-heartedly and use my best judgment based on experiences that I can relate back to the topics and situations at hand. One of my experiences with empathy that could be related back to this is the current project that I'm working on, that I'm leading, which is creating a donation drive for a women's homeless shelter. I also believe that one of my skills that I can bring to the committee is having an assertive voice. I see myself as someone that doesn't always have the biggest voice, but instead someone who makes sure that when I'm speaking for the group as a whole. I truly believe that if everyone's voice is not included, true discussions cannot be had. I will always ask for the opinions of those around me as well. I am very interested in this position because I want to give back to the community. I have helped out with so many events in Attleboro, from being a part of the food pantry and tutoring. I have also participated in multiple events here in Attleboro, just like Healthy Kids Day, the Black Lives Matter rally, and more. Attleboro is becoming more and more diverse every single day, and I would love to be able to help create more events and accommodations for those of all different backgrounds. One of the issues that I'm very passionate about that I think I could bring to the board is the topic of inclusivity. Many new families are moving to Attleboro from Brockton and Boston due to the new high school and better housing opportunities. And I'm interested in knowing how these families are being integrated into Attleboro, and if there are any services that are set up already for them, and if not, what can be done to make them feel more welcomed into the town. I would also like to say that I am a very diligent worker, and I am always ready to advocate for what I believe in while trying to make a difference in my community and make it more inclusive for everyone. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Haley. Question, at such a young age, you seem to have doing a lot of stuff, volunteering for a lot of things. What has gotten you to be so ambitious and so caring, and how did this all happen? Because a lot of adults probably haven't even done as much as you have in some cases, and it looks like you've really done a lot of things.
Yeah, so I feel like from a very young age, I've always been open to all these things. My parents always, brought me to all these different events, and I always wondered what was going on in the background, because sometimes I would stay after these events and I'd see people closing up the events, or sometimes I'd go very early and see people setting up early in the morning, and I would think, how can I help out with those kinds of things? Because I know that a lot of things go into place, like the winter festival that we have every single year. I would think, wow, this is a lot, and these people are staying from early in the morning all the way to late at night, and I wanted to be behind that and not always just be there to enjoy it, but actually help out.
All right, any other, thank you very much, that's a great input. Also, Simone?
Yeah, just a comment and kudos. Thank you for wanting to be involved. Civic engagement is so important, particularly with younger kids. So if you could spread the word and get more kids involved, not only in the youth commission, but perhaps in other capacities. Are you in the 2030 project at the high school? I don't know what grade you're in, but the civics project over there?
No, I'm not.
Okay, all right. Anything to build civics, so spread the word if you like what you do, and try to get more kids involved, because it's super important. So thank you for stepping up and volunteering.
President Delicio.
Thanks. So thanks for coming down, and thanks for your interest in the Youth Commission. I'm one of the co-mentors along with President Kovas. So I love your passion. You're very articulate, and I think we'll do some great things together. So the question is, what's one thing that you'd like to get done on the Youth Commission?
One thing I'd like to get done is I would like to create some kind of event that could be done maybe once a month, or maybe even once a week or every other week, where people of different backgrounds can all have like one event that they could all attend. So maybe if they're coming from a town where they don't know many people, or maybe a very few are from that town that have moved to Attleboro as well, they can have like that sense of like warm community, while people from Attleboro can also come along, and they can appreciate the culture that they might have come from. And I feel like everybody can feel more welcomed and included.
Great, thank you.
Vice President Cobus? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you had your hand up. Sorry. Any other questions?
Looks like Councilman.
Oh, Council Waterman.
I love your emphasis on inclusivity. And I think this city is a very good place to work on those issues and concerns. I want to thank you for that. Can you say a little bit more about your interest in the women's show?
Yeah, so I go to Bishop Feion High School, and I'm a part of clubs such as Female Empowerment. So I wanted to help out in a way where I feel like children and women, they don't always have as many, opportunities and things like that, and they suffer a bit more than I feel like males do sometimes. So I wanted to give back in a way that doesn't take too much out of, I didn't want to work. I just lost my train of thought.
That's okay, you're doing great.
Yeah, you are.
Women's homeless shelter and...
Oh, yes. So I wanted to give back to the homeless shelter because I feel as though everybody has a different story, and you never know what their story truly is. And females and children sometimes, especially children, they don't deserve that because they are very young. And women and mothers, they work very hard to take care of their children sometimes. And I felt that if I could help in some kind of way, and if my peers that are also a part of my group could help in some kind of way, then that I feel like could be the best thing that we could possibly do, especially in Providence, because growing up I was in Providence a lot, and I saw how hard women would work over there for their children. So I wanted to give back. So that's
Great, well, thank you very much. And I think you're going to do great things. And I think it's so appreciative to have you come down and speak in front of us, and looking forward to you being on the Youth Commission. So thank you very much, and as we spoke earlier, you'll be definitely hearing from us soon.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Victoria Parrott?
Hello, my name's Victoria Parent, and I live at 44 Right Circle in Attleboro.
All right, what would you like to tell us about the Attleboro Youth Commission? And
Okay. Well, I think there are several skills and experiences that qualify me for the Youth Commission. For one, I'm dedicating all aspects of my life, ranging from maintaining straight A's in my school. I participate in competitive softball, and I'm part of several organizations and clubs every day after school. Not only does this show my dedication to a wide variety of things, but it also demonstrates my ability to time manage, along with showcasing that I'm well-rounded and open to many different experiences. Amongst these things, I also have experience specifically serving and contributing to my community directly, and this is through service-based clubs at school. And these clubs do things like provide meals and funds for those in need, aim to end prejudice in the school community, and advocate for common sense gun laws. I also have experience with service through my involvement with the Attleboro Fast Pitch Softball organization, where I've helped coach 2 young teams, and I've helped run clinics for younger players. So I'm interested in this position for 2 main reasons: to contribute to my city and to expand my horizons. I've lived in Attleboro almost my entire life, and I've grown to be passionate about my community. Joining the Attleboro Youth Commission would give me the opportunity to serve the city alongside other teens my age in a cooperative environment. And I also enjoy new opportunities and challenges, as I like to diversify my skill set. Amongst this, I'm also open to learning and evolving, and would like to do that through the Attleboro Youth Commission. One issue in front of this committee or board that I'm passionate about is the fact that it aims to assist those in need. From what I've already seen is that the group has ran a diaper drive for the city, which I thought was very positive and would do great things. I also love the group's focus on the immediate community and dedication to the group dedication of the group to Attleboro as a whole, and I would like to be a part of this myself. And overall, I would just appreciate this opportunity and would love to be a part of the Youth Commission.
Thank you very much. President Delicio.
Victoria, thank you. So for those who don't know, Victoria's been coming to some of the meetings anyway, and she's been an active participant waiting for this moment. So, you know, I don't like to guarantee things, but I don't think you're going to have much of a problem. But we certainly appreciate your passion and both of you for wanting to help out and move the city forward. It's impressive.
Councilor Dolan.
Just want to say thank you for offering to volunteer, and I think you're pretty well qualified. I wasn't that busy when I was your age, but it seems like you've done a lot of good already, so I think you'll just add to that on the Youth Commission.
So, as I was asking Haley earlier, like yourself, you seem very ambitious. You've been at such a young age, done a lot of things. What has got you into this mode, into this focus, wanting to give back so much, wanting to help, and being so caring?
Just overall, seeing the negative points of the world, whether that be discrimination or poverty or anything along those lines. I've always seen it and I've wanted to do something about it, not just sit back and watch it. So I feel like my involvement through school with all of the service opportunities that are offered there, it's me trying to take initiative myself and contribute to change and not just hope other people change the world.
All right, well, thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you, Victoria, and you'll be certainly getting a letter in the mail very shortly.
Okay.
All right, thank you again. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, from the docket of October 18th, 2022, I entertain a motion to confirm the appointment of Victoria Parent to fill an expired term on the Youth Commission, term to expire February 2025. Second. Second? All right, people, okay. All right, well, we just heard about Victoria, and fantastic, she's gonna be great. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
No, I totally agree with you. She's very involved and trying to make an imprint on her world.
Yeah, all right. All right, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye, motion passes. For the docket of October 4th, 2022, I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Haley McGee to fill an expired term on the Youth Commission, term to expire February 2025.
Second.
All right, thank you, sir. Again, another fantastic person joining the committee, and I know she's going to do great things for this city, and at such a young age. So any other questions, comments?
No, really.
Councilor Blair?
Just a comment. It's heartwarming to see two young people like this want to serve and contribute. And they have the right ideas. Ideas I like to hear. You know,
Yes.
they're different from a lot that you hear out there. And it's nice to hear young people voices and the willingness to step forward and help this country. Not only the city, but this country. I see great things for both of those kids.
Couldn't agree more. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That concludes a Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee at 6:59. We're adjourned. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned at 6:59.
Longest minute in government.
Susan's getting her stuff, she'll be right over.
Call this meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 7 PM. Please join me for salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into tonight's meeting, I'd like to thank and congratulate Captain James McDonald on his recent retirement for his years of service to the Attleboro Police Department. Captain McDonald retired, gave his final roll call on Friday. So a grateful city thanks to Jim, and best of luck on a long and healthy retirement, my friend. I will be asking to suspend the rules as we have been doing in order to take committee of the whole after the public hearings. That being said, I entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the records of October 4th and October 18th of 2022.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We have two public hearings tonight, and Madam Clerk, now that we're operating under suspended rules, will you please read the notice for the first public hearing?
Yes, sir. Public hearing for November 1st, 2022. First public hearing regarding an ordinance change in Section 10-5 parking, 10-5.3 time limited on designated places, insert Wall Street easterly side from Riverfront Drive to South Main Street.
Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against? Councilor Bennett, do you see any need to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
Okay, I'll declare this public hearing closed. Madam Clerk, will you please read the notice for the second and final public hearing of the evening?
Yes, sir. Second public hearing in accordance with Section 2-11.2 of the city ordinances to declare that the Finberg School property consisting of 1125 South Main Street and 120 Knight Avenue be available for disposition.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Anyone to speak against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Councilor Reynolds, do you see any need to keep this public hearing open?
Do not.
I declare this public hearing closed. I entertain a motion to enter into committee of the whole.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're now in committee of the whole. If any resident has any business they would like to bring in front of the council, please do so now. It's not a habit, George. See, I would entertain a motion to arise from committee of the whole.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We've now risen from committee of the whole. We will now go into a reading of the mayor's communication.
Thank you. November 1st, 2022. Dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Schools David Sawyer regarding the following donations. Art supplies, 360 4-inch plates, 125 8-ounce water-based fast-drying assorted paints, and 1440 1-inch sponge paintbrushes with an estimated value of $700 from Home Depot in Attleboro. 60 hardback copies of my favorite book in the whole wide world by Malcolm Mitchell for the second grade students at Studley Elementary School. $8.99 a book equals $539.40 from the Share the Magic Foundation. 90 hardback copies of my very favorite book in the whole wide world by Malcolm Mitchell for the second grade students at Thatcher Elementary School. $8.99 per book, totaling $809.10 from the Share the Magic Foundation, in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro. I hereby request your honorable body to accept these generous donations to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packet.
City property and claims, please.
I hereby request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for disposition: 1 copy machine, 4 chairs, 21 file cabinets, and 5 tables.
City property.
For funds to pay fiscal year 22 invoice to Franklin Miller. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $250 amounts of $197.80, $156.40, $179.29 and $179.40 from various funds. Mark Furtado regarding the following fiscal year 22 fiscal obligations that were not received in time to be processed in the normal fiscal year 22 business cycle. Vendor Cull's office, copies in your packet.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Recreation Dennis Waltz regarding the need for funds to purchase a copy machine for the Recreation -558330 Recreation copiers, copies in your packets.
Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Chief of Police Kyle P. applies to issue new ID cards. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $5,122.29 from account 1124100-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1210100-558203 Police Photographic Supplies, copies in your packets.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Administration Jeremy Stull regarding the need for funds in order to fund a multi-week overlap of 2 individuals in a single position in the City Clerk's office. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $6,100 from account 1124100-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1161000-51100 Clerk Salaries. Copies in your packets.
Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services, please.
Sincerely, Paul Heroux, Mayor.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk will now go on to reading of the clerk's communication.
Thank you, sir. Clerk's communication of November 1st, 2022. We have received 10 Class 2 license renewal applications.
Those will be referred to the License Committee.
We have received 4 Class 1 license renewal applications.
Also referred to License.
Thank you. We have received a letter from Deborah Blackburn of 36 Chickadee Way with regards to some issues that she is having a problem with paid position at a future dog park and asking for donations to help the elderly with their tax bills and the huge increase to the parking passes for the city lots.
Copy to all councilors, please.
Thank you. We received a letter from Dominic Lanzillo of Norfolk, Mass., informing the council that Mike's Automotive of 801 South Main Street doesn't have an auto repair shop license held with the Division of Standards.
That'll be referred to the License Committee as well, please.
Thank you. And that concludes the business for the clerk's communication.
Thank you. We'll now go into committee reports, and as always, we will start with Councilor Waterman.
Thank you. Reporting from the License Committee, in the docket of November 1st, 2022, I would move to approve the following Class 1 license renewal application from Courtesy Auto Group, Inc., DBA Courtesy Kia Mitsubishi, 11 and 16 Scott Street for 32 customer parking spaces and 172 display spaces.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Corbis. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, it's all in order.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And from the docket of November 1st, 2022, I would move to approve the following 7 Class 2 license renewal applications from the following. Tri-County Auto Sales, 1850 County Street for 4 customer parking spaces and 5 display spaces. C&A Millennium Motors, Inc., 1844 County Street for 10 customer parking spaces and 8 display spaces. Bristol County Auto Sales, Inc., 227 Pine Street for 10 customer parking spaces and 10 display spaces. East Coast Auto Sales, Inc., 24 Rice Street for 14 customer parking spaces and 40 display spaces. Your Mechanic, Inc., DBA Better Auto, 473 Washington Street for 10 customer parking spaces and 4 display spaces. North Main Street Division of K&I Tire and Automotive Company, Inc., 44 North Main Street for 17 customer parking spaces and 1 display space. And Blue and White Motors, Inc., 1815 County Street for 4 customer parking spaces, 15 display spaces.
Second.
Any comments?
No, I visited all of these places. They were all in good shape. We had to move a couple cars around on occasion, but not much. It was all pretty good.
Councilor Blair.
Just for clarification, that's K&L Auto on North Main Street.
Okay, I couldn't quite make that out. Thank you. K&L.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, this also requires a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And from the docket of November 1st, 2022, I move to approve the following Class 3 license renewal application from Tri-County Auto Sales, 1850 County Street, for 4 customer parking spaces and 6 display spaces.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Any questions, any comments, Councilor Waterman?
No, they were all set up. They were perfect.
Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, this also requires a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And that concludes the business of the License Committee. I'll call for the next committee meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Waterman. Councilor Dolan.
Public Works Committee has no business this evening and call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for the Finance Committee, I have 7 motions for the council to consider tonight. From the docket of November 1st, 2022, I move to approve the expending of a earmark grant from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs in the amount of approximately $125,000.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. President, this earmark replaces the budgeted $125,000 we had voted for the feasibility study for the senior center. So it's a wonderful addition to the city from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns on this piece? Before we vote, I do just want to take a second, thank our State Senator Paul Feeney for really advocating for this piece of business to come through. I think it's what happens when city and state works together. So thank you, Senator Feeney. We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of November 1st, 2022, I move to transfer $6,945 from the Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to the Council on Aging Maintenance of Buildings.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. President, this is for an elevator repair, which must be done, and I would encourage support. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Additional comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of November 1st, 2022, I move to transfer $3,000 from the Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to the assessor's salaries.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. President, this $3,000 will allow the doubling up for 10 weeks of a new clerk in the Assessors Department to learn the job before having to do it solo when a person retires.
Okay, thank you.
And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of November 1st, 2022, I move to authorize the school department to pay the previous year's school bills totaling $27,873.87 as identified in Mr. Furtado's communication.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments?
Yes, Mr. President. This happens frequently this time of the year because the city employees are not in control of fully in control of the vendors' accounting departments, which seem to fail to recognize that we have a fiscal year in the middle of the calendar year. So there's more of this coming, and I would encourage the support, and that concludes my comments.
Our accounting isn't their priority. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett? Yes. Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of October 18th, 2022, I move to approve the transfer of $92,000 from the Citywide Reserve Fund for Capital to the Health Department purchase vehicles for the purchase of 2 vehicles, tentatively Ford Explorers, for the Health Department, consistent with the city's green communities policy.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
Yes, I met with the Health Department Chair, Beth, and the city nurse, Allison, and reviewed the process of which they came to select these vehicles. And they're buying the vehicles through a state-recognized vendor called MHD, which is where we buy all of our police vehicles. And in this current supply chain shortage for automobiles, partially due to lack of semiconductors, MHD has a stock of Ford hybrid Defenders, which are basically the police vehicle, 4-wheel drive, for $42,000 and change, which is a remarkable price, considering the a new Toyota Tacoma pickup truck is more than that. So this is a good deal, and I highly encourage my councilors to support it, and it'll ensure that our Health Department chairperson and city nurse will be able to travel in inclement weather with 4-wheel drive. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Blair.
Thank you, and no disrespect, Councilor Connie, but I personally think there's cars out there for this type of office for less money. That's, to me, last week you said 80,000. This week it's 92. And, no, you did, Richard.
Okay, I mispronounced last week. My mistake.
Okay.
It's always been 92.
I was surprised because I didn't think you could buy an Explorer for 40 grand, right? There are other vehicles out there, and I wish that they would look into it. Kia, for one, 100,000-mile warranty, all-wheel drive. And for that particular office, I think it would be convenient. That's just one, but there's many out there. And if we're being conservative about spending taxpayers' dollars, they don't need all to be driving around in a police cruiser. So for that reason, I won't be voting for it. Thank you.
Councilor Conti.
So, Mr. President, Councilor Blair has voiced exactly my initial reaction, that this seemed to be a tremendous amount of money for what the application was. And I met with the individuals to exactly get that answer of why do we need a Ford Interceptor police vehicle for the health department. And what I learned was that the supply chain is the problem, that to go get, say, a Kia is through a state vendor is not possible. The Nissan hybrids are all gone. The smaller vehicles stock has been depleted. So they wound up going to MHD and selected a vehicle that would absolutely suit their needs, because there'd be enough room for them to put supplies in emergency in the back of the vehicle and get them where they need to go. So because it was what I thought a reasonable amount for the application, and the fact that they're hybrid, I decided that I would support the measure, because we will not have to worry about our health nurse getting anywhere at any time in these vehicles. Same with the health department manager, department head. So while it might seem to be overkill, if there's an emergency, it's not overkill. If it's an emergency, these 2 people are going to get to where they need to get with the vehicles that we're providing them. And that concludes my comments, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Dolan.
Thank you. I appreciate you looking into it, because it does seem high, but I went and looked at cars, and they are not selling any car on any lot, on any dealership that's not thousands above MSRP. I get letters every day that they want my vehicle, but I can't get another one without paying exorbitant amount of money over MSRP. So to have this vendor and to have these vehicles available, and again, you know, we could always pass these along like we do in the city, pass these vehicles along for whatever reason. And I understand your point, Council Blair, completely. But to buy a vehicle now, it's almost impossible to get any type of deal. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Additional comments, questions? Council Bennett.
Thank you. I just have a question about what is the department currently using and what do they have for a current inventory of vehicles?
That's a good question. The department had a big box truck, which they got from another department, and it was absolutely useless to the department, but it did serve to get medical supplies from point A to point B with a great amount of space left over in the box truck. The second vehicle they had, I don't recall that, but I believe it was a van. And the van rusted out and died and was decommissioned. So the department was left with no vehicles, but they had the box truck, which they decommissioned to another department. So when these two people came into their jobs into the health department this year, there were no vehicles at all, and we are paying them 56.5 cents a mile to use their personal vehicles, which is the IRS standard. And so that's contractual. So by purchasing the vehicles, we will be able to discontinue paying the mileage at 56 cents a mile. They will be able to get from point A to point B with absolute certainty. And that concludes my comments.
Council Angelo and Council DeSimone.
Excuse my ignorance on this, Council Connie, but what would be a couple examples that they would be traveling to? Is it other city departments? Is it schools?
The health nurse puts together flu shot events and responds to medical emergencies and has to travel through snow, ice, and mud to reach her destinations. The health department supervisor is also a nurse and is also in the same field. So in the case of an emergency, say a hurricane, they would be called out to assist medical emergencies. And these vehicles, being police interceptor vehicles without all of the things that police departments want. They're not going to get the radios and the siren and all that stuff. They're going to get the basic vanilla interceptor with a logo on the side that says City of Attleboro Health Department. Probably painted white, is my guess. So the former nurse, Jackie O'Brien, during the coronavirus was extremely busy in outreach programs. And I'm sorry that I can't tell you specifically what they do, but it's not an idle position.
Well, thank you.
I hope that helps you.
Council DeSimone.
Thank you. So, forgive me for asking the question at this point, but when you listed the inventory of vans, why am I remembering that during the pandemic, we bought the health department a new van? And am I misremembering?
I think it was a transfer from another department, Councilor.
Was it? So it wasn't a purchase of a
I think
new
it was a
van?
new purchase.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I just know the subject of a health van had come up at some point during the pandemic when they were traveling all around doing vaccination clinics and whatnot, but, okay. All right, thank you.
Additional questions? Councilor, I have a question. You make a very good case as to why there's a need for a vehicle like this. I haven't heard why there's a need for two.
I Don't know why there need to be two, other than we have two people that need to get around, and sharing one vehicle would cause us to continue to pay that other person 56 cents a mile. And I should underscore that the fact that they're able to select two vehicles off of a ready lot of vehicles ready to roll is one of the things that made this so appealing to me, that we can stop that 56 cents a mile bleed now and get the vehicles here quickly. And I never even thought of questioning why there'd be two. There's a city nurse and there's a health nurse manager, and two nurses are what we have.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds.
I just want to know, Richard, do they get to take the vehicles home, or do they drive here, then use the vehicle for when they're here in the city?
I don't know if the city nurse is on call 24/7.
Yeah, I don't
I
either.
suspect she's not.
I mean, I'm comfortable with it if they use their own vehicle to and from work, and then they, take it out whenever they're on the clock here.
You know, that's a policy that I think I examined when I had your position as city property and claims 12 or 13 years ago. And the determination of whether or not someone would be able to take their vehicle home, because Jim Mooney used to take his vehicle
Yes,
home,
but he was on the clock 24/7.
but he was on call 24/7. And that means because Beth, has replaced the person who replaced the person who replaced the person
Yeah.
who was Jim Mooney,
Yeah,
that I'm sure her
That she
job
could.
is in the same position, that she's on call 24/7. The city nurse, I don't know.
I don't believe so. Okay. Okay, I personally don't have a problem with it. I think that the bigger issue is that I agree with Laura. It's really difficult to get a good car today at a reasonable price. And even though it seems high, it just means that the vehicle should last longer. It's a good car. It should be around for a long time, and it can always be switched to another department. But honestly, there's nothing wrong with making sure people that are going out in the community have a good car every day when they're on the clock. So that's my comment is that we should give it to them, and I will vote yes for that.
And if I could add, I don't think it's appropriate for a nurse to have a vehicle like a smart car where there's very little storage. I think that the police interceptor has adequate storage for a considerable amount of medical devices and paraphernalia that I think are part of the job.
I agree. Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Counselor, question for you. Would you be willing to hold this for a couple weeks and there was a lot that was raised, a lot of questions that I think it would be prudent for us to get the answers to those. I think Counselor DeSimone, I have the same recollection you do. I'm not against it. Right now, I'm not feeling great about it. If we could get some of these questions answered, the need for two, the differentiate. I'm sure that the supervisor needs hers for her role. The nurse certainly needs hers. We don't want them driving down in a broken down box van, but I think to Councilor Blair's point, $92,000 is a good amount without knowing exactly what it's going for.
Perfectly acceptable to me. If Councilor Cobus is willing to withdraw his second.
I rescind my second.
Okay. Thank you both for that. I think there's just some questions that need to be answered.
It's a lot of money. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to adopt a dual system of classification of real estate taxation in accord with the appropriate Massachusetts general laws.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Once a community adopts a dual system of classification, it's very difficult to drop it. It has been done, but I don't see that happening with this council and this city at this time, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Additional comments? Seeing none, this requires a roll call vote. We'll begin with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
No.
Thank you. Council President Delicio?
Yes.
10 yeas, 1 nay.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I entertain a motion to adopt a classification factor of 1.4 for the fiscal year 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I have nothing to say.
I do.
Do we have additional comments on the floor? Councilor Bennett.
Looking through the materials and going through my notes from last week, I did have some concerns about running out of shifts. I know this was mentioned. This is something I sort of had to wrap my head around, being new to the council still. But I felt that the 1.4 might be pushing us a little bit too far in that direction, and wondered if maybe there was a sort of a middle ground between where we are today and that amount to leave some cushion for the future in the event that that might be in the best interest of the city. Thank you.
Councilor Blair.
I move to amend the motion to 1.50, or the same as it was this year. Was it
1.36.
1.36, yeah, 1.5.
I should have seconded you.
I rocked you right, huh?
There goes the shift.
There goes the ship.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Bennett. Motion's in order. Councilor Blair, any comments?
No, I just think it's time to hold the line myself. I've been against the dual rate since it started back in the 70s. I spoke against it. It has become, like Richard said, almost impossible to get rid of, if not impossible. But I don't think we should keep badgering businesses. We don't have the reputation that it is as being business friendly. You know? I would think holding it where it is a prudent thing to do at this time. I don't think lowering it is, and I don't think raising it is the right way to go. So my amendment is to keep it as it is.
Thank you. Councilor Bennett.
I tend to agree with Councilor Blair. I think we're in some really uncertain times right now, and I think building in a little bit of stability is not a bad thing. Looking at the increases, it keeps it relatively nominal. It keeps it stable going into this new year, and we can kind of get through some of the turbulence that we're experiencing as a city. That concludes my comments.
Councilor Dolan.
I won't support staying at 136. I don't think that it's nominal, and I won't be supporting 136. Thank you.
Councilor DeSimone.
I won't be supporting 136, although I do appreciate where we are now. Now, it's all about the now, and I'm not quite sure now is the time to stay or go down. Happy at 138 on just the now, not the before, not the after. And I think just the now, 138.
Vice President Corbis and Councilor Blair.
People care what the shift number is. What they care about is what their tax bill is that they receive in the mail, and that's what matters to them. Not what this tax shift number are. We at 136 or 138. That doesn't matter. What matters is the bill that comes into them. And if we stay at 136 for the median home, their tax bill will increase by 5.86%. And if we stay at 136, residential tax bills go up by more than the percentage that the levy's increasing. So, in my opinion, that's...
I think you failed to take into consideration, Todd, residential values have gone up tremendously. Business or commercial has gone down. They're not selling it that. Comparing apples with apples, Todd. The values have gone like this in those two categories. Business values have dropped. Am I right, Richard? In most cases. I'm calling on your assessor part now. And real estate and residentials have skyrocketed.
They're foolish numbers. It's not helping anybody. It's certainly not helping the homeowner. So to suggest that the values that are out there are real, it's ridiculous, because they're not sustainable. It's not going to happen. And then we're going to have this rate that people are paying for And I just think we are doing a total disservice to the residents of this city at that. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. And as far as commercial going down, 46% of the new growth was personal property. So that's a huge amount. Personal property, and that's on the business side. That's on the commercial side. So the 46% of the new growth was on that side. So I will not be supporting 136. Thank you.
Councilor Conti.
So, I believe the commercial industrial classification section of the city of Attleboro deserves a voice on the council. Of the personal property increase that Councilor Dolan just spoke of, about 30% of that is from cell towers this year that were appraised by the city assessor for the first time in the history of the city and determined an accurate valuation rather than the value that the cell tower companies report. So it's an abnormal pig in the python for personal property. I spent the afternoon with a plastics extrusion company, and the business owner said to me, I just got a call from my biggest customer, and he's shopping around because it's expensive to do business in Massachusetts. And he's got 30 employees, he's got a 25,000 square foot building, and he said, you know, I'm very concerned that businesses pay more than residences, and we don't get the benefit of it that the residences do. And I explained to him, well, I said, you don't get the vote in the city, and the people who own residences do. Therefore, there's a lot of political weight in a residential classification than the commercial classification. He said, but I'm being hit by inflation just like everybody else. The interest rates are going up when I borrow money just like everybody else. I'm being pressured by the market and by the economy just like homeowners are. Why can't there be one tax rate? And I've always felt, ever since I've been an adult, that a single tax rate is the most democratic system. That one tax rate for everybody levels the playing ground. But Proposition 2.5, when it came along, created such a panic that it was important to have a two-tax tier. And unfortunately, as we matured, the tax split did not go away. In fact, the opposite is happening. It's pushing farther and farther to the extreme. So I know that I got phone calls after the last meeting thanking me for representing the business owners in the city of Attleboro. And I am a homeowner myself. My tax bill is now over $7,000. Holy smokes. I didn't think I'd ever see the day. But we have a new high school, and I get the pressure that puts on families. So I sympathize with Councilor Blair, and I do understand why councilors want to support a higher tax split, but I won't be supporting it. That concludes my comments.
Councilor Holmes and Councilor Blair.
Thank you. To be clear, as Councilor Cobus has already stated, if we stay the same, that's almost a 6% increase for residents and is a 4% decrease in businesses. That's not staying the same. That's almost a 6% increase for residents. So for that reason, I would like to entertain a motion that we do.
I'm sorry, Jay, go ahead.
We haven't voted on the amendment on the floor of 1.36 yet.
I can't do another?
I think you can. I think you can stack the motions.
I don't remember we could.
I think you go like two deep and then no deeper than that.
That's it. It is just two.
I'd like to entertain a motion for 1.38.
Second.
Motion is in order. Any comments? Diana, any comments?
Oh, none.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Blair.
One last comment. I think it's time we revisited the way we tax property in Attleboro. If we stay at 1.6, that gives us a year to do some background checks. In my opinion, if you're going to have dual rates, maybe we should have 3 rates. I don't like giving a tax break to National Grid or some of the big guys. I don't like that. It doesn't sit well with me. But it doesn't sit well with me with that mom and pop or that small outfit that employs 10 people, 8 people, whatever. That's not fair either. So look at it this way, folks. Let's keep it the same, or let's not gouge, and let's do something that makes sense. Change the way we tax property in the city of Attleboro. Make 3 different tiers, so it doesn't adversely affect the poor or the lower stanchion and the homeowners, and it doesn't let the multi-billion-dollar companies off the hook either. It's time we make a change. Instead of sitting in a semicircle and arguing every year about the split and what the tax rate should be. Common sense should prevail somewhere in this semicircle.
Councilor DeSimone.
Yeah, I agree very much with most of what Councilor Blair said, and I mentioned this last week, that there's a lot of information we don't know. You know, businesses encompasses the national grid, who I'm not in any way inclined to help, but it also encompasses people who do own the location and operate small businesses. I want to propose some kind of business survey. What are we talking about when we talk about businesses in Attleboro? How many of these businesses are multi-billion-dollar national, international companies? How many own their own property that are operating? How many lease? How many employees do they have? I'd like to have some kind of business survey. I'd also like to suggest that we consider taxes come around once a year and we all go crazy about how to do this. We might want to consider a more longitudinal approach where we're thinking about this all the time. You know what I mean? All the time. How can we get more information to inform our decision today from when we, approve the budget to now? So I don't know if the new business would be welcome concerning having a standing committee on tax classification or tax exploration or tax climate, whatever you want to call it. But that encompasses all these things. I'm also interested in small residential exemptions, as I've talked about. Things are changing. I think we need to change our focus, to your point, Councilor Bear. We need to adjust to the times, so a food for thought. Although for the moment, I'm going to support the 138.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. President, who seconded the 1.38?
It was a tie
either
between
me or
Council
Todd,
Dolan
doesn't
and I.
Okay, Councilor Dolan.
Thank you.
Councilor Dolan.
Thank you. I agree with what Councilor DeSimone and some of what Councilor Blair said. And before we even had a special committee, I would like to know about the owner-owned, operated businesses, because that's where we run in trouble. If we really want to help the small businesses, because like I said in the last meeting, most of them don't own the building. So if we did give them a huge tax break, we gave them 10% tax break, would the business inside that building that they rent from see any relief on their rent? Probably not. I'm not speaking for anybody, but that I would rather have that information first, and then maybe have a committee on how we can directly help small business. Avoid, not even with taxes, directly help small businesses that maybe don't own their own building and don't clear $1 million a year or whatever the case may be. That I would absolutely be interested in. Thank you.
Councilor Conti.
I don't want to drag us down into the weeds, because I could easily do that. I could go on now for easily 2 hours.
It's early.
No doubt.
There's a couple of things that you need to know, is that we can't just invent a third tax rate for the utilities.
Yeah.
Because it's against Massachusetts general law and it's against our charter. And Councilor DeSimone, getting a report from the assessor on the size of the classification, 3000 series classification, is easily done, takes her 4 minutes and you've got it. And to Councilor Dolan's comments, I forgot, I'm losing track of where you were. But
Small businesses?
the small businesses, what they like is consistency. They don't like to see things jump up and jump down. And to that point, I would be speaking in favor of keeping the same rate, 1.36. But the overall thing to remember is that the method of collecting the tax has been set in stone. We can't mess with that. And I forget that there was a third thing I wanted to talk about, small business, but I don't remember what it was. So I'll end it there, and thank you for giving me the floor.
Of course. Vice President Cobus.
I agree with what Councilor Conti said about maintaining consistency, and actually, if we stayed at 140, the average commercial tax bill, the bill they received, remember, residents in commercial, they don't care what the rate is. The bill they receive would stay the same on average, so we would maintain the consistency if we were at 142 would stay that way. But because like Councilor Bennett mentioned, being concerned about running out of shift, I support the move to 138, so that we can plan for the future, so that we're not shifting drastically one way or the other. And then the thing that I just brought up that I was looking at is over the last few years with COVID. So in 2019, we were at 133. 2020, we went up to 135. 2021, we came back down to 134. And then last year, we went up to 136. So we haven't been changing drastically year over year. I remember with COVID, there was a lot of, in the pandemic, there was a lot of talk about being careful for the commercial entities, and because they were going through a lot at that time. So we didn't shift as much then as maybe the policy would have suggested. And again, this year, the policy is suggesting we go to 142, but we're talking about, we're at 140 now and talking about 138. I like staying conservative, and I think 138 would be conservative, and it would still give commercial a 2.68% decrease on average for their tax bill. So I think that's a very reasonable thing to shift to.
Additional questions or comments? Vice President Cobus, I'd like to give it to the chair. Thank you.
President Delicio.
So this vote is probably the most important vote that we take all year. Every year, we have the same talking points, the same discussions. It's not easy, because what we're doing is saying, hey, commercial, you're gonna pay more than the residential, a higher percentage of that levy you're gonna be on the hook for, but by how much? This is a difficult year. We're first year in two and a half that we're feeling like we're getting back to normal. I think going too far, and I've talked to Julia several times. I know she's going through some stuff right now, but I had a lot of the conversation that Council Blair, Councilor DeSimone were just speaking about. There are things we need to do, and shame on us if we are waiting until October, November to be looking at this, because this is something that's very real throughout the course of the year. We also sit here throughout the course of the year and we say we got to listen to the experts. We got to hear what the experts say. We have our city assessor who came down and said, we've got to be we've got to be mindful, and we've got to care for how quickly and where we move that shift. That resonated with me. We have one of our colleagues who does this for a living who's warning us the same. I, for one, will be listening to our colleagues. I'll be listening and understanding that, these numbers here, they're not telling you the full story, because real or not, the house values, that's the appraisal. They're real. We might not like them, but they're real. We might think they're inflated, but they're real. We have businesses who come in who are homeowners and taxpayers. I think Councilor Dolan brings up a great point when we're talking about the business owners who don't own the building, but someone does, and someone's going to have to pass down some of that increased cost. Where's it going to go? It's going to go to those businesses. So I think there's a lot of things we need to do between this November and next November to see how we can help. What exemptions are available? They're out there, but does it make sense? There are small business exemptions. Does it make sense? Councilor Conti, thank you for talking about the third tax tier. Councilor Blair, I looked into it after a conversation you and I had several weeks ago. There are ways to go about it, but this discussion can't end tonight. It's got to continue because we owe it to the businesses here to say, hey, we appreciate what you're going through. It's tough for businesses. It's tough for residents right now. We know that. Right now, regardless how this vote turns out, no one wins. Let's be perfectly clear. No one wins until we get back to a 1, and that's decades away. It's not going to happen anytime soon. What we have to do is vote your conscience, vote what you think is best. I think this has been one of the more, not friendly, but one of the more professional conversations we've had about this. We've controlled emotions, and for one, I appreciate that. I will not be supporting 1.38. I will be supporting the 1.36, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, President Delicio.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? We'll have a roll call vote on the 1.38%, beginning with Councilor Waterman or Blair?
It is Blair.
Is Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Repeat that again for me.
1.38.
No.
Yeah.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Vice President Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
No.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
No.
3 nays, 8 yeas.
Motion passes. The amendment passes now. Now we're back to the motion as amended. So again, it would be to adopt a classification factor of 1.38% for fiscal '23. Any additional comments? Councilor Blair.
Just one. I think you're making a terrible mistake, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think it's right for the city, and I don't think it's right for the future. So you're making a terrible mistake. I hold my thought at 1.36, and I don't like that. Thank you, Jay.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, begin with Councilor Waterman. And
Mr.
again, sorry, just wanted to remind people it's on the motion as amended at 1.38%.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
No.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Vice President Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
No.
President Delicio.
No.
8 yeas, 3 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
That concludes the business that the Finance Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. Councilor Bennett.
Reporting for our transportation and traffic, there's no business this evening. I look forward to meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Vice President Kobus.
Reporting for IT and Infrastructure Committee, we have no business tonight. I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. Reporting for zoning and land use this evening, no business, and I'll call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Reynolds.
Reporting for City Property and Claims Committee from the docket of November 1st, 2022. I move to approve the surplus and to be used as trade in value the following Glock Model 21s. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I have none.
Okay, additional questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
Yes.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Vice President Kobus.
Yes.
Ms. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Waterman.
Yes.
President Delicio.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of November 1st, 2022, I move to accept the generous donation of Stop and Shop gift cards totaling $500 from the Disabled American Veterans.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I have no further comments, no.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to declare Coelho Middle School obsolete textbooks as surplus and available for disposition.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Any questions? No comments, rather.
No, I do not.
Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you. That is all the Business, City, Property, and Claims Committee has this evening, but I would like to call a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Reynolds. Councilor Angelo.
Reporting for Personal Veteran Human Services Committee. From the docket of October 18th, 2022, I move to confirm the appointment of Victoria Parent to fill an expired term on the Youth Commission. Term to expire February 2025.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
We just listened to the two great individuals, and we're lucky to have them both.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we will have a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to approve the appointment of Haley McGee to fill an expired term on the Youth Commission. Term to expire February 2025.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Councilor Angelo, any comments?
Just made my comments that falls for both in the last one.
Additional comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
That concludes the Personnel Veterans Human Service Committee, and I call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Angelo. Councilor DeSimone.
Yes, thank you. Reporting for ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. I have two pieces of business for the council this evening. From the docket of October 4th, 2022, I move to approve the following proposed amendments to Section 17-3.3 prohibited uses, Section 17-11 definitions, along with an additional related recommended amendment to 17-3.57 table of accessory use regulations by inserting the word parking.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Motion is in order. Kathleen, any, Councilor DeSimone? Any questions?
Only two. I read this into the record at the last, at the committee meeting. We had a pretty good discussion about it. I would just point out that just to emphasize the point, the power to control the parking of commercial vehicles and residential properties exists. What we're doing is defining what a commercial vehicle is, which I think is important so that everybody has notice as to what it is. And frankly, it doesn't leave it to the vagaries, if you will, of the person in the position. Right now, we have a very fair and reasonable building inspector. What about if we didn't? That person could decide to interpret the term another way. So this ensures consistency and that everybody understands what it is and isn't. So thank you.
Thank you. Additional, Councilor Conti.
Mr. President, I wish to make a motion to amend that on the table of accessory use regulations for general residence and single residence zones, that rather than being allowed with a special permit, be changed to not be allowed.
Let's see, where are you looking exactly, Richard?
So on section 3, chapter 17-3.5, table of accessory use regulations, we have residential, business, and industrial.
Yep.
Currently, the motion was to allow a general residence and single residence zone to store, garage, or park one or more commercial vehicles with a special permit. And my motion takes that away, that in a residential zone, the storage of garaging or parking
Real
of
quick,
two or
is
more.
there a second first?
Second. I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Holmes.
I was just trying to make it clearer.
No, I understand. I just, before we started to discuss exactly what it was. So, there was a second, so.
So the motion's in order? So the reason why I would like to see this changed to not allowed in general residence and single residence is because exactly that, they're residential neighborhoods. And the storage and garaging or parking of one or more commercial vehicles, it's the or more commercial vehicles that I think deserves a no, not allowed in a residential neighborhood. And that concludes my comments.
Counselor DeSimone, then Reynolds.
Yeah, so thank you. So my understanding is the only change that was made to the table was not in terms of the permit, whether it was to add the word parking. So what Councilor Conti is proposing is fair, but this was not within the scope of what we considered, nor do I think it was in the scope of what the planning board considered. So I wouldn't support going that far. I don't think that's necessary. I think a special permit is process enough to prevent those things. So I wouldn't agree to it, but I also think it exceeds the scope of what we had been discussing for all these months. Thank you.
So I'm going to go along with that, number one, because that was not on the table when it went before the planning board. So we could bring that up and bring it up and then start it again. But the issue with that special permit, as I perceive it after having spoken with some members of the planning board, is that some of the residential areas are huge properties. And so the vehicles they come for a special permit because they might be garaged behind the home. That might be on, 5 acres of land, and they can be parked, as I was told, behind the home where you can't see it. There can be a driveway down past it. And there is when the planning board would consider, it has to come in, and they have to consider whether they will receive the special permit. They go down, they see the land and whatever. So it could be residential, but it could be a huge farm. And so those are the reasons the special permits are there. So I would respectfully say that if we want to take that out, we have to bring it up after this. We vote on what has taken almost a year to get out from the planning board because they had so many questions. And if we want to go further, then we bring it back. But I would have that conversation with the planning board about why that's in there, the special permit.
Councilor Conti.
So in the process, if the planning board says one thing and the council says another, the council wins. In the card game, the council has the trump card. So even if it goes through the planning board in this level, the council has the right to make it what the council wants to make it. So we have the ability to change the ordinance to not allow commercial vehicles in a general residence or a single residence zone. The reason why I think it should be done is because the overwhelming majority of single residence and general residence properties are not 5-acre properties.
That's true.
And the 1 or 2 5-acre properties that have commercial vehicles have home occupations. Home occupation permit comes with some allowances to accommodate the business. So I still think that it is the best ordinance to restrict no groups of commercial vehicles to be parked in a residential zone. And that concludes my comments.
So, Vice President Kovas.
And I just have a question. If we were to make this change, would this require a new public hearing?
That's what
I feel
my
like it
concern
might.
is, and I was gonna wait till everyone had their say, but this would be a change to the zoning, which this public hearing, that was a joint public hearing, case could be made hearings. So it would, I think what Councilor Reynolds and Councilor DeSimone says makes sense. I think this is what you're suggesting, I think there's support for, but procedurally, it would need a new public hearing and a new joint public hearing, just because of the drastic change to the zoning ordinance. Vice President Kovas.
If I may, through the president, so I think what you propose in your amendment has merit, and I right now I think I would support it, but what I suggest we do is vote no on this amendment and then introduce that as new business and do another public hearing, because I do think there's a lot of value in getting this definition moved forward in the ordinances now, and then potentially review that as new business. So that would be my suggestion.
Great. Councilor Conti, then, and I don't want to keep going around and around on this, so.
So either way, we're going to have a public hearing. Either way, the final ordinance is going to be delayed. But my preference is to make it right in the beginning. And so I would like to call for a vote on my amendment.
Okay. Where we have moved to question, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair, and that's on Councilor Conti's amendment.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone.
No.
Mr. Angelo.
No.
Ms. Reynolds.
No.
Ms. Holmes.
No.
Vice President Cobus?
No.
Ms. Bennett?
No.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
No.
Mr. Waterman?
No.
President Delicio?
No.
9 yeas, 2 nays. Excuse me. 2 yeas, 9 yeas. Nays. Woo.
Motion fails.
11.
Motion fails. We're now back to the original motion. Additional questions or comments?
Not for me, thank you.
Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
No.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
No.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
No.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
No.
President Delicio?
Yes.
7 yeas, 4 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of February 15th, 2022, I move to approve the adoption of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Sections 42G through 42I and Section 42K to enhance the votes from December 17th, 2019 regarding the deferral of taxes for eligible seniors.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, this has been pending a while. I'm happy to move it forward and out.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
I would have one. Mayor?
You may.
Thank you. Councilor DeSimone, I realize it's been pending a while, but the sensitivity of the subject, could you one more time share
Yes.
with us what this is?
So, yep, it has to do with the deferral of liens for senior citizens and whether we can defer those liens. We have to have the mechanism by which to do so. This provides the mechanism by which to do so. It comports with things we were trying to do to help seniors with certain tax issues. So this goes along with that.
Thank you. Councilor, we'll have roll call vote beginning with Councilor Blair.
Thank you. Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the business for this committee. We look forward to a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor DeSimone. Councilor Blair.
Thank you, President Delicio. I have a motion to bring forward this evening. From the docket of October 18th, 2022, I move to accept the FY22 Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistant Grant through the New Bedford Police Department and the U.S. Department of Justice for approximately $12,620 and accept any future grant amendment.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Cobus. Councilor Blair, the motion is in order. Any comments?
We talked about in committee, and this money is going to go to our cyber officer over there, or his department for new software, which will enhance his capability to make sure, but to try to stop anything over the internet that affects our children. And I think it's money well spent, and I think it's going to the right place.
Additional comments? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Waterman.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Vice President Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Have no other business this evening, Mr. President. I wish to call for a meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. There is no old business, there is no new business, and I'd entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We adjourned at 8:11. Thank you, everyone.